Hello, Tide fans. Welcome back to Tide Talk. I'm Sean Taylor. I'm your host, and we are getting ready for a big week 9 of college football. Even bigger week for the University of Alabama. I am bringing back a guest. You may recognize Jimmy Messick, my good buddy. He was on the show a few weeks ago. Jimmy, we're 8-0.
8-0.
You know, I know we've talked about, you know, the fact that we would probably be right here in this situation getting ready to go play LSU, probably undefeated. Thought that they may be undefeated. They've got one loss, so it's going to be a good game. Give me just your high-level overview so far. I mean, since we've talked last time, since you were on the show, what are you thinking so far? How do you feel about where we are as a team, where we are in the season?
Right. Well, I mean, since we talked last, I mean, not a lot has changed as far as from a perception standpoint. I mean, like you said, I think we're exactly where we thought
we'd be. Yeah. Again, no surprise there.
No surprise. Again, I still think we continue to raise the bar. I think after every week, you know, I'm not sure. You know, we watch us play and we're like, man, how can we get any better? How can we, you know, look any better? Whatever. And we go out the next week and we're like,
don't let Nick Saban hear you say that.
Exactly. Yeah. Old rat poison. But so yeah, man, I think we're exactly where we thought we would be still. Honestly, I think since the last time we talked, the only really drama we've had is, you know, Tua's knee, right?
Right. Are you surprised at all, Jimmy, that we have been able to do the things offensively that we've done? I mean, let's be real, we knew we were going to be good offensively. I mean, we talked about it since the end of last year. You know, since we threw the touchdown pass in the national championship game and the number of freshmen we had on the field at that time. We knew we were going to be good. But are you surprised that we've been this good?
Right. I mean, yeah, a little bit. But you think about it. I mean, going into the season, we arguably had one of our best offensive lines. Obviously, the best receiving corps, top to bottom.
Right.
Probably the best running back group we've ever had, you know, top to bottom. A quarterback that we knew that could throw it, just given an opportunity. Honestly, I guess my only question or concern was really the offensive coordinator. And maybe we haven't given him enough credit, but really and truly, that was my only question mark was, man, how is he going to handle game-type situations? Will he be able to, you know, make those adjustments and get that game ready or that plan ready to be able to distribute the ball and get it out to all these different – because, I mean, literally, we knew we were stacked on the offensive side, but honestly, I just didn't know how he was going to respond. And man, just check all the boxes right now.
As a former offensive coordinator, and you and I have talked, I mean, we've watched games together and said, man, I didn't like that play call or what have you. As a former offensive coordinator, there hadn't been many times that I've said, no, you know, I really didn't like that play call. Now, and I'm taking into consideration when we have our ones in. You know, when we got our 2s and 3s and 4s in, it's a little bit different because everything changes. We're trying to kill the clock, you know, control the football. We're really not doing a whole lot. Mac Jones is in there, and we're, you know, handing the ball off, and understandably so. We've been up a lot, but to this point, I have to agree. You know, there's not been a lot of really bad play calls, so to speak. Maybe a few, and I think that's just maybe testing the waters with something.
Right.
But as we said, we knew we were going to be good offensively. I just don't think anyone anticipated we were going to be this good.
Right.
I mean, and when you think about it, we still got a quarterback that has not thrown an interception and has not taken a snap in the fourth quarter.
That's right.
And we talk about that all the time, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but man, when you're 8 games in the SEC, you're about to play your 9th game, supposed to be this big matchup, and that's still a question.
Right.
Is he going to play in the fourth quarter?
Yeah. Well, you know, talking about those play calls, you know, again, in the past, was it the play call itself, or was it just the execution part of it?
Right. I was going to say that.
You know, now it might not be the best play, but man, we're executing it. You know, and that's probably the biggest difference too. Is, man, the execution is just there.
Which brings up that brings up a really good point, Jimmy. You're talking about some young guys.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, our receiving core is sophomores for the most part. I think Irv Smith is a sophomore.
Nope, we have a freshman.
Yeah, by the way, we got a freshman running around there. I mean, so you're talking about guys that are executing at a high pace consistently, and they're young guys. So that's really something to note. And we can talk about the offense all day long, and man, it's really odd. I was just talking to a buddy of mine, the other day, and he's not an Alabama fan, but we were just talking football, and he was saying, you guys don't have to be the Alabama of old. You don't have to shut someone out,
right?
To win. You've got a chance to score a bunch of points, and oh, by the way, now 8 games in, your defense has just progressively gotten better, and I think that's a very true statement. I mean, we've been able to score, so that does take pressure off the defense, but man, the defense is starting to, every week, they're getting better and better and more comfortable in the system every week.
I agree. Yeah, the defense, again, going into the season, we thought had the talent, of course. Wasn't sure how they would respond, again, because really there's a lot of youth on that side of the ball too, as far as from an experience standpoint.
Losing 7 guys to the draft.
And you're right. Every week they're a light bulb's coming on here, light bulb's coming on there, and they're getting it. And so that has to mean a lot,
Yeah, I mean you're getting guys, and I think it's a testament to the fact that some of those guys that are sophomores and juniors, they got some reps last year. Maybe they weren't starters, and maybe they didn't, play, 50 to 75% of the time, but they got some reps in big games. They got some reps in SEC football. Now those guys are starters. The guys behind them are getting those reps, and it just, you just see them getting more and more comfortable. And I made a comment before, Matt Wilson's fairly new as the signal caller. Deontay Thompson is the signal caller for the DBs. And those guys were fairly new, so it took them a game or 2, maybe even 3.
And it's a good point, because I think that's probably the biggest difference right now, 8 games in, is the fact that we're starting to see a little bit of that leadership, out of those guys. Again, that was a question mark on that side of the ball. Is who's that leader? Who's that alpha male?
That alpha male, that alpha dog that we talk about all the time.
We didn't have that the first few games. I think Matt Wilson, if you follow him on anything, I mean, he's mentioned, hey man, I got to do better.
He did. And called himself out.
It called himself out, and now we're seeing a change in him as well. And so that's scary.
I think
for that side of the ball.
I hate to say it's just timing, but man, what a better time for him to be really comfortable in what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've played 8 games. He's been the signal caller. You can tell just in his level of play. I mean, listen, early on, I think we even talked about it. Wasn't calling his name a whole lot. Mm-mm. And I think that the grand scheme of things, the big picture, kind of overwhelmed him. I mean, we know that his athletic ability's there.
Right.
We saw that in the first couple of years when he was on, kickoff, special teams and kick return, kickoff, and,
right.
and the ability to get down the field, make hits, and that sort of thing. Now we're starting to see him be the signal caller, but now play like we anticipated him to play. He and Dylan Moses, what a great compliment as linebackers right there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Again, all right, I'm totally lost now. I just lost my whole train of thought.
That's all right. Well, so anyway, we're going to go to a break in just a second. But again, the fact that Alabama people are talking about offense more so than they're talking about defense is just, man, it's been something that I've wanted for a long time, and I know there's others too. But it's something that I've wanted for a long time. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the individual things offensively and get into a little bit more of the stuff defensively, because Nick Saban still believes that there's growth opportunity and there's room to get better, et cetera. And I believe that too. I think there's always room to grow. But we're going to take a short break for Bob English and State Farm Insurance. So hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Savings this big come with their own theme music. State Farm agent Bob English in Phoenix City can help you get all the discounts you deserve with a free discount double check. After all, real savings should fold, not jingle. Get to a better state. Call Bob today.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. We were talking the last segment, Jimmy, just about all, a lot of things, how all things are starting to come together. We were talking about the defense, talking about Mac Wilson being really, really comfortable at this point. It's been, it's been very noticeable in his individual play. The play as the defense as a whole, front seven looks really good. But I'm really impressed as not just an Alabama fan, as a football fan. I'm really impressed with our defensive backs. I mean, you think about who we lost. The guys that were back there for three years. And the job that they've done, and even losing some, Trayvon Diggs and
right. I was going to bring that up. We lost all the ones from last year, but we also lost a starter already this year that was playing really well, by the way.
I mean, our DBs have been. Listen, I hadn't had my brother calling me and pitching a fit about, why don't we turn and find the ball and. I mean, so I really think they've done a very, very good job, because that teams have come out and thrown the ball against us thinking that would be a weakness.
Right. Well, and they also have to, because you look up 10 minutes in the game and they're down 3 scores, so you can't stick to your running game plan at that point.
Right. So look at how all of those things, when you start, when you start planning and when you start prepping, when you look at how all of those things come together, great point. 7 minutes to go in the first quarter, and Alabama's up 21-0. Well, I can't run the football a whole lot, so now I got to throw the football.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, we're literally making teams one-dimensional before the end of the first quarter, which is also helping our defensive line. It's just a, everything kind of ties into each other. Again, we're scoring early, putting teams in big holes. Now we are having we know, hey, these guys are going to come back passing. The defensive line can pin the ears back.
That's right.
Which
makes a huge difference for a DB.
And it also probably makes it easier to call a play, for a coordinator. But yeah, the DBs have definitely played above their heads, in my opinion, as far as expectations are concerned.
Without a doubt. I mean, you got some young guys back there. You've got guys that are coming in that haven't had a lot of live SEC game action. Mm-hmm. And man, what a great job. But as we just talked about, as I said, the defensive unit as a whole, all of those parts working together. I mean, when you got Quinnen Williams and Isaiah Buggs and I mean Jennings coming off the edge, and Raekwon Davis, you're presenting a challenge for anybody when our weakness is supposed to be our pass defense. And I tell you what, I don't see. I think we did worse stopping the run this year than in years past.
There's no doubt. And it's funny too, because how long has it been since we haven't really been able to talk about our inside backers? Like Wilsons and Moses. I mean, we've always had that guy there, and they've always kind of held the spotlight in the headlines. Well, now those headlines again is that D line and those DBs, and so it's different to look at that defense and see where we're getting the productivity out of, and surprisingly has been in that secondary for sure.
I was reading an article about Quinnen Williams, about how his draft status has just gradually increased from game one, and a lot of folks maybe don't recognize. I mean, he's not, maybe who we've had there in the past with respect to size. I mean, think about Deron Payne. Mm-hmm. I mean, Deron Payne was this massive figure. Quinnen Williams, he's 6'4", 289, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Not who we've seen, Mount Cody and those guys, Ashawn Robinson. But he's so strong and so fast and so athletic, and he's wreaking havoc on the interior.
Right. Well, I know you're not big into social media. Of course, I am, especially Twitter. But I read every week. I see these things, and where there's these defensive linemen are graded out. Not just SEC but nationwide, and Quinnen Williams is literally like graded out the top. Like every week it seems like I read it, and And I see comments, and they're not just from Bama people, just talking about just from the national standpoint, talking about, look, man, this guy needs to be mentioned up there with the Bosa and the kid out of Houston who's supposedly the best one out there. And they're like, man, y'all need to pay attention to this guy's film, Quentin Williams' film, because he's playing as good as anybody, if not better. And so he's definitely been a pleasant surprise on that front, for sure.
Without a doubt, and I think that's critical. We talk about interior pressure as opposed to just bringing people off the edge, and how he can hold his ground on the run game as well. I mean, so yeah, kudos to Saban and the guys. I think the defensive coordinator has I think they've just done a great job with a young group of guys.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to a point that you made with respect to the offensive coordinator. What are your thoughts? Dan Enos is listed as the co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Mm-hmm. But man, how big is it that he is on the sideline specifically for the quarterbacks and really doesn't have the stress or the task of play calling. He can just deal with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I guess I don't think Alabama, or at least under Saban, has had anything like
not.
that.
This is the first year.
Obviously it helps to have a talent like Tua, of course. But you're right, man. It's big to have that presence on the sideline. Again, not that because we're playing so efficiently, or Tua is. I mean, it's not. I don't know how much coaching he's actually having to do, game time stuff. But certainly the preparation for the games it's obvious in the results.
Well, if you listen to Tua, he gives a ton of credit to Enos. I mean, I read an article today. I mean, he basically said coaching. What do you credit your success? And he said coaching.
Yeah.
He said when I can come off the sideline, and when Jalen comes off the sideline, and we've got a guy that's dedicated to us, that's talking to us about, okay, you got to do this, and you can look at this, and I need you to pay attention. See this coming, and he sees that it's phenomenal. That he doesn't have to necessarily be so focused on play calling. He can spend that time with us. And I've watched a few times when they've panned the sideline and they've had those two guys over there, and he's right there with them the entire time. It's got to make a huge impact.
Oh, there's no doubt. And of course, it's genius on Saban's part to bring that guy in. And maybe he brought it in because he saw the need, or again, when he has a new coordinator, maybe he's thinking, okay, let me take some of that pressure or responsibility off of him, because he's going to have his hands full. Either way, it's working great, because like you say, Loxley didn't have to worry about coaching his quarterback up. For one, he's concentrating on that offense, and then you got Enos over there doing what he's got to do with the quarterbacks, and it makes
you wonder. Was Saban's plan to bring Enos in, who's known for his quarterback, skill set, so to speak, his coaching. He was there at Michigan State when Saban was there. Makes you wonder if he brought him in to make Jalen better, to help him from a quarterback perspective, and then you got this guy comes in named Tua, and so now you got both of them getting better. And so, I mean, I tell you what, it was. I guess that's why Saban gets paid the big bucks, because he makes those calls. And boy, I think it's really made a big impact on not just our quarterback, but our offensive play as a whole. We're going to go to a short break, Jimmy. We're going to come back and talk about what they're calling. It's not the game of the century, but they're calling it one of the biggest, most anticipated games of the year. That game in Death Valley. I know you've been there, so we're going to take a short break on behalf of Bob English and State Farm. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
State Farm agent Bob English is here to help protect all the moving parts of your life with auto, home, life, and financial services. Bob English and his team make it simple to bring together what matters to you. Get to a better state. Call Bob today.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. We're getting ready to go to what people say is probably the most difficult place to play in college football. Now, you've been there. I've never been there. So What's it like?
Well, I'm not sure what all the hub's about. At least from an Alabama fan standpoint.
Of course.
I mean, look at the success we've had down there. I was reading something, and I don't know the numbers, but I mean, they don't beat us down there really. They don't beat us at night down there. But to answer your question, I mean, it obviously is a great atmosphere. Now, granted, I was there a few years ago. LSU was kind of a down program at the time. I think there was as many Alabama fans down there as was LSU fans, best of what I can remember. But it was still a great experience. Would love to get back. Especially now, because of that rivalry that has become one
kind of rekindled.
With Alabama and LSU.
I tell you, I was reading some stuff on social media over the past few days, and they were actually asking Tua, what his thoughts were as far as going into the Death Valley at night. You always hear that Death Valley at night. Those things just are terrible for opponents coming in, and he said, "I hear it's really loud." He goes, "But Tennessee was loud." That's kind of his nonchalant response. He said he was really excited and looking forward to it. Jimmy, how do you think that our guys are taking the social, not necessarily social media, but the media's reaction to we haven't played anybody yet and we haven't been tested? I mean, how do you think our guys are processing that, if you will?
I'm sure they're on it. I mean, it's obvious that they read that stuff. And I can't help but think that it's only helping their preparation. I mean, I love it. I'm on it a lot. Again, I'm on social media a lot, and I love seeing stuff, trash talk, that headline that's going to be posted on our locker room door, and so whether it comes from the media, whether it comes from opposing team, player, whatever, and so I know the team is hearing it, whether Saban thinks or tries to keep it away from them or not.
That.
But I guarantee it's got to be a factor in them getting ready mentally for it.
I know personally. You can relate. We both played ball. As a competitor, man, I wanted wherever it was, whether I was playing at home or away, I wanted to leave there and everybody in the place, whether it was basketball or whatever, to think I was the best player at the time. And I think Mac Wilson and Dylan Moses have to be taking the whole Devin White's the best player in his position in the country. I think they have to be taking that personally. And I think it's extra motivation. And I don't know that necessarily anybody's intending that. That's just they're just stating what they think. And the guy is a really good player. Guy's a really good player, without a doubt. Doesn't hurt my feelings that he's going to sit out the first half. But you know what? I said it on the show last week. I wish the Joker was playing. I wished Alabama or Saban would have sent a letter saying, "Hey, you know what? Let the guy play." Because what we don't want to hear, because our players are even talking about it. If we go in and take care of business and do what we're supposed to do, are we going to hear, "Well, LSU's overrated. We still ain't played anybody"?
Of course it will.
I mean, that's and our guys are saying that. I mean, I think it was Damian Harris, said. It was Texas A&M, it was Ole Miss, it's Missouri. We go out there and we execute and we prepare well and we do the things we're supposed to do and we win the game, and they weren't that good. Right.
Or you look up at the end of the season, they've got 3 losses instead of 2 or 1. But I get that. But back to the players though. Talking about Moses and Mac. Of course, Moses we got out of their backyard. And how many? I was reading some of that stuff this week too about
guys out of
the recruiting battles that we've gotten out of Louisiana. And so those guys are thinking about that. But and this is again where Saban's a genius. There is a fine line of getting too hyped, and getting too pumped and
letting emotions take over.
That's right. And again, man, I don't remember where we've let that happen. Now, again, man, LSU is a good team. They probably arguably are the best team we faced to this point. So it will be a different challenge for sure. But you got to know that the players are reading into that stuff and seeing that, and got to use it for their advantage.
Without a doubt, not that they need extra motivation. I mean, this is this is the game. This is really the game that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the season. Not necessarily that it's the end all, so to speak, or win all, but boy, whoever wins this game sets themselves up really nicely. Now they're talking about the remainder of our schedule, and there's no denying it. The teams, the three key teams we're going to play, LSU, Auburn, Mississippi State. Their defenses are
the game is technically for the Western Division, so whoever wins is going to win the division. So it's definitely a big game, and there is something at stake. But yeah, man, I think just based on what we've seen already to this point, I feel like we're going to be able to go in there and take care of business.
I really feel I'm really ready to see. I don't know that we have yet. I made the comment before. I'm really ready to see us have a full game, offensively and defensively, well balanced offensively. We ran the football like I believe we can run the football. We got four guys that are really, really fresh. And by the way, Robinson was in Phoenix City last Friday night with Markel Benton. And if you didn't know, he's a beast. I walked beside the Joker and thought he might have been a defensive end. Just how he's, what a physical specimen. And he's, by the way, he's the fourth string running back.
Well, again, you're right. We haven't talked about the running game much this year because, all the focus has been on Tua and our receivers. And I haven't, honestly, because we get so caught up in Tua. I don't know statistically where we are, but I know I did see one thing. We are more balanced than you think, as far as the running the ball. Now, we don't have that guy that's getting 150, 160 and 3 touchdowns because, like I say, we are spreading it out. We do have a wealth of guys back there. So, Harris coming back here senior year, we thought, oh man, this is the year. But he's carrying the ball 5 or 6 times,
Right.
And then the second Harris is coming in and carrying. So, I think we're getting enough out of that running game. We just don't really necessarily talk about it because of Tua. But you're right. I think this game, maybe more so than ones in the past, we will probably need to maybe rely on that a little bit more.
Yeah, because you know how Saban is. Especially in a hostile environment on the road, we get a lead. He wants to run the football. Mm-hmm. He wants to eat the clock up. We have not been able to do that as effectively as years past. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if our offensive line can, especially being 8 games in. Now, we do have some small adjustments there, but they talk about Cornbread. They talk about the guy that's playing guard now is an absolute specimen. But I'm really looking to see if we can win the battle in the trenches against what they say is maybe one of the best front sevens we're going to face, have faced at this point for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing if we can do that, and boy, it'll be a great test come Saturday night there. So yeah, Jimmy, it's going to be, man, I tell you what, I'm excited. I know our players are excited. I know that without a doubt, Saban will have them ready. The extra motivation's good, but Saban will have them ready. So we'll see how we fare. We'll see how Tua handles his first start in Death Valley.
Yeah. Night game at Death Valley.
Night game at Death Valley. That's what I've heard all week. So, man, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me,
Jimmy.
Again.
And we will see you again next week right here. If you'd like to call in and ask us a question or just make a comment about the show, the number's right here on the screen. Please do that. We'd love to hear from you. We'll take the call and address your question if you have that next week right here on Channel 7 and 207. We'll be right here with Tide Talk and Roll Tide.